Want to use a stirring rod, and we're going to break up the precipitate by using a circular motion with a stirring rod. Now that we have washed the precipitate, we somehow need to separate the washing from the precipitate. Sometimes the technique tells you to discard the wash. Sometimes it tells you to place the wash into another test tube for further testing. In this case, no matter which one we do, notice that we have the precipitate completely mixed into the wash water. So we're going to have to centrifuge and decant the washing. So once again, we're going to use our centrifuge. We're going to place our test tube into one of the test tube holders, making sure that we have another test tube opposite it with about the same amount or even a little bit more water than what we have in our original test tube, because our precipitate also weighs. It's actually denser than the water. So we want a little bit more water in the other test tube. We're going to set our knob to the hold position, and the centrifuge will start spinning. We're ready to stop our centrifuge, and so we open the lid and we're going to carefully stop the spinning. And we see that we have packed our precipitate. Remember that what we have on top now is the washing, and it depends on what our instructions tell us, but in all cases we need to decant the washing from the precipitate. This involves adding the filtrate or the washing very quickly into another test tube and keeping our precipitate in our original test tube. Even if the technique tells us to discard the washing, it is a very good idea to first pour into another test tube before we discard it down the sink. What if your precipitate had accidentally poured into your washing? Well, if you did so at the sink, you have to start all over again. Another important technique in qualitative analysis is to determine whether a solution is acidic or basic, and perhaps even to adjust it to be just basic or just acidic. To do so, we're going to use litmus paper. We have blue litmus paper and we have red litmus paper. The blue litmus paper changes to red in the presence of acid, and red litmus paper changes to blue when we have a base. So here we have a test tube with a solution that we do not know whether it's acidic or basic. And we're going to use red litmus paper and blue litmus paper to determine whether it's an acid or a base. To do so, I'm going to insert the stirring rod into the solution to pick up some of the liquid, and I'm going to now touch both the red litmus paper and the blue litmus paper with this solution, and I'm going to observe which one changes color. Notice that the red litmus has changed to blue, while the blue litmus paper has remained blue. This tells me that the solution that I have in the test tube is a base, because it changed litmus paper to blue. Blue for basic. Now, perhaps I need to adjust the acidity of the solution, and I have a basic solution, and maybe my experiment tells me that I need to make it just acidic. So to do so, I'm going to start adding acid to it. Notice that the solution is basic, so I need to add acid to it. So I have some dilute hydrochloric acid, and I'm going to start adding it dropwise. I'm going to be mixing my solution and checking for the acidity as I go along. So I'm going to add several drops of acid to my solution. Remember that it's very important that I mix my solution, and I can do it either by using the stirring rod, or I sometimes prefer to use the stopper, as I have shown in other techniques, where we stopper the test tube, we tilt it once or twice, make sure that if a reaction is occurring, that I allow any excess gas to be released, and then I'm going to shake it well, and I am now going to test the solution to see whether it has now become acidic. To do so, I'm going to touch the wet stopper to the litmus paper, and notice that my red litmus